Hey everybody, Dustin DePirac here, columnist Jeremy Price. Zach Osterman is back. I hope everybody enjoyed the holiday, and we came back to Assembly Hall to watch one more of these games, the last one,
Yay!
thankfully. Amen.
And there was much to rejoice in.
Very much. So that is the last non-conference game. You don't know if that's the last blowout of Indiana's season, but that's the last team that they're going to play that is just simply completely outmatched and outclassed, and is just of generally kind of lower level of Division One. They beat Jacksonville 93-59. It was close for about 10 minutes, and then it did what you would expect to happen when the number 5 team in the country plays a team that's like 5 and 6 out of the. Are they now in the Atlantic Sun? I think they still are.
I think so.
Yeah. So basically, Indiana does what Indiana does when it plays one of these teams. They took them a while to sort of, I guess, not figure out the zone so much, but start pounding it inside against the zone, and got pretty much ugly from there.
Well, it also just took them a while. I mean, they got open shots.
Yeah, they did.
It just took them a while to hit them.
To hit them, yeah.
I mean,
Jordy,
if they'd hit the shots that they had that
early
were
on.
open early on, the game would never
Have been
this
that.
didn't feel like a slow start like some of the other ones Indiana's had. This just kind of felt like a team should have been making some of the shots it was missing.
It was a little messy early. They turned the ball over a bunch.
But it wasn't. They didn't look stale. They didn't. There have been times this season where they started games, particularly against some of these opponents, these kind of cupcakes, with just kind of a certain staleness or boredom to their game. Like they just couldn't really wake up. I think they were fine tonight. They just weren't hitting shots.
I think it was more impatience than anything else. They coming out ready to hit the home run, and sometimes you got to take your time.
And Jordy Holes eventually hit lots of them. Jordy Holes hit 6 threes in a row, I think it was. He banked one. He also hit like a fall away that was pretty crazy, ridiculous as well. And I guess that's sort of, if there's one thing that sort of comes out of the night that's maybe a little bit different. I mean, Victor Oladipo was being Vic, 14.7 rebounds, 2 steals, jumped into. I guess right over this bar over here, right into a little kid or whatever, almost hurt his ankle but didn't. Cody Zeller had 16. It's sort of been sort of standard Cody, and but Hulse was, I guess, if there was a really big story tonight, it was probably Jordy Hulse going back and being more aggressive. It was a season high for him tonight, and he said he made a point to be less passive, and I think that's obviously it's been a balance he's tried to hit the whole time, because he does like to move the basketball, just make the smart decision, make the right decision, but somewhere in there sometimes the aggression gets lost, and I think you saw a lot of that tonight from Jordy Hulse, the Hulse that they want to see apparently.
Yeah, I thought it was probably his best stretch since that stretch there right before, during, and after the Legends Classic.
Right.
Had a real good
Where
stretch
he was
there.
really off the charts.
And was real aggressive, looking for a shot. But again, it kind of came in a sudden burst. The first 10 minutes or so, you really didn't see a whole lot out of Hulse tonight. But all of a sudden he hit one, and then he hit 2 and 3, and away it went.
This team is a weird way of sharing. I think Hulse really probably could have ripped off another 10 points tonight if he wanted to, but this team likes to get one person going, and then once they really kind of set a defense on having to stop that one person,
they find another guy.
They'll immediately just rotate the next guy in. It's like, it's almost, we talk a lot about their depth, but it's almost like this team's offensive approach is to kind of just attack with that depth, where one guy starts scoring a lot of points, and then as soon as, Will Sheehy scored 10 points in the second half. Cody Zeller scored, I think, 12 points in the second half. As soon as Jacksonville had to start adjusting to really play more on Hulse, you started to see other guys really open up, and it's almost like, obviously that's intentional to an extent. Indiana talks a lot about sharing the ball, but it's almost like that's part of the way that they attack offensively. Is as soon as we get this one guy going, it's almost a feel thing, and once we feel like we've got the defense playing, off center or off balance from what it wants to be doing,
find the other
we're
vulnerability.
going to immediately rotate to somebody else and start attacking this way to just keep them stumbling, basically.
If there's a downside to that, it's kind of the question of what's the go-to play or player in a close game, and I think we saw a little bit of that with Butler. I mean, you wound up with Yogi Ferrell taking a 3-point shot, which is not really his thing, but obviously it worked.
Right.
But in a tight game, kind of what's the preferred method of attack?
I don't know. There's a major issue. Go ahead, Zach.
Well, I was going to say maybe because I'm sort of with both of you a little bit on this because I think you're about to say I don't know if there's a major issue with that.
Well,
I guess
yeah,
what I
was
would
gonna
say is
something else.
I don't know what the ideal Indiana win looks like right now. I don't know. I don't know what if this team is at its best. Who's the leading scorer? Why? How? What does the stat sheet look like? What's the balance of who's rebounding the ball, who's who's got the most assists, who's taking what shots, who's going to the free throw line most often? I think I have an idea. I think if you look at that UNC game, that's probably a fairly close reflection. But I'm not, there was a supposition at the beginning of the season that Indiana went as Cody Zeller went. And I'm not sure that's necessarily even true. I think that Indiana would be hurt by the loss of Victor Oladipo or Jordan Hulls or Yogi Ferrell or Will Sheehy. I'm just not, and I don't think it's a bad thing because it's December 28th. It's not, February 28th.
No.
But I'm just not exactly sure what Indiana's best performance looks like right now.
Which I think obviously rolls into sort of the grand cup. There's a big sort of topic of this evening is as they head into conference play, what do we know about this team? I mean, we know they're good. We know there's a lot of talent. We know there's a lot of weapons. We know there's a lot of depth. But again, I mean, you've only seen this team tested really twice in 2 months.
Yeah.
Is effectively it. They played a really good game against Georgetown. They played a really good game against Butler. They hammered a North Carolina team that really was a big deal, mostly because it was North Carolina, and that's the name they were carrying around. And
since then, North Carolina
won a sort of ugly game against Georgia. So other than that, we do we feel like we know that much about this team other than the fact that they just are good?
Yeah.
I don't know that we do. I mean, I think you're right in saying like we don't know what a really good Indiana win looks like because we don't know what it's going to be like when they have to play somebody else at their caliber or anywhere near close to their caliber.
Michigan State last year, Cody Zeller scoring the way he does, Christian Watford taking an elite guard out of the game. Jordan Hulls hitting some big shots. I think he had some big shots, certainly against Ohio State, and I think he had some against Michigan State. It's just it's not clear yet. What is this team when it's at its very best?
Right.
Because
what is this team going to have to get? What are the teams that
the positive of its depth is it can play a lot of different ways. If one thing's not working, it's got 3 other things that it can try in a span of 3 possessions that are all really good options and potentially really efficient. The downside of that depth is sometimes it's kind of hard to tell. It's kind of a weird analogy, but you hear about businesses sometimes that fail because they don't understand what their identity is and they just do too much. They're too vague. They have their hand in too many pies.
Right.
Is that going to be a problem for this team at some point? And that's where I think it gets back to what Jeremy said about who does the ball go to in a moment like that? Who do you want the ball to go to in a moment like that? Because I think this team does need a delineation of this is the best person to do this. This is the best way to approach this, and I'm not sure we know that right now.
And I think maybe the interesting part of that is if the one thing we have learned is that the ball is probably going to wind up in Yogi Ferrell's hands in some form or fashion in those situations. It'll be up to him to distribute the ball where it should go.
See, but
him or Hulls.
But when it really came down to it in the Georgetown game, it was Jordy Hulls. And and even when they the last second shot against Butler was Hulls. And I think a lot of the play that even ended up with Ferrell getting the 3 in that play was they were sort of decoying Hulls in some way, shape, or form. I think he was on the floor, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think they sort of knew that everybody was going to go guard Hulls. And I think that's still
that was Butler's strategy all day. They came in looking to take Jordan Hulls out. At the end of the day,
one way or another, the last play, when there ever is a last play, and we don't know how long it's going to be till there is a real last play, that's critical. It's built around Jordan Hulls first. That's sort of the thing is find out what they're going to do with Hulls and go from there.
He is their most efficient scorer.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that makes the shots. And I think a lot of the stuff that Tom Crean said tonight was really interesting. I asked him, okay, what's kind of the balance for Hulls? Because obviously he's a guy that likes to move the ball, and he's a guy that moves the ball well, gets a lot of assists, and, he kind of helps get the offense going. But he says, we're not looking for balance with Hulls. When he gets a shot, he's allowed to hunt threes. He's allowed to take whatever shot he wants, basically. And you'd heard that before, kind of, but it was more, I think, blatant the way he put it tonight. They're like, no, just... When Jordy can shoot, he shoots. Whenever he has the thought in his mind, whenever it occurs to him that I can put this up, it's a shot he should take. We're getting kind of low on time here, so we should address Jeremy Holler real quick. You obviously probably saw the statement on the blog earlier. It is a compliance issue, and Fred Glass maintains that Indiana has done nothing wrong, and that he says that Jeremy Hollowell and his family were sort of a victim and not a perpetrator in this case. It's hard to sort of put lines on this one because I don't think anyone has a lot of specifics. The word agent is being floated around a lot of different places. I've heard it from actual sources, but nobody seems to know details, specifics, who contacted who, what sort of fashion somebody might have been contacted in, what that might actually mean, what that if that has any actual effect on eligibility. It sounds like Indiana is just trying to be really, really safe with this, basically. I mean, the indication I've gotten is that there's not a possibility of kind of forfeits going backwards or anything like that. It doesn't sound that way at this point, but it's the NCAA and you never know. So a lot of unanswered questions right now, a lot of uncertainty, a lot that we really don't know in terms of who contacted who, whether it was an immediate family member, a distant family member. Not really sure, but it's something that continues to be sort of in limbo a little bit as Indiana goes forward. So, but that's all. Now we're leaving. So on that note, Iowa City on Monday. Thanks Big Ten for just giving us a rockin' New Year. I guess Zach will be here. Jeremy and I will be out there, and Big Ten play starts. It's about to get real. Thanks everybody.